Today I have a special guest. His name is Steve Ram. He is the 250,000 subscriber man on YouTube, and he talks a lot about finance and other things, but I want him to give his proper introduction. So Steve, before we get into your origin story, how you got to where you are today, can you tell the people a little bit about exactly what you do today?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on today. I'm really honored to be able to speak. But yeah, my name is Steve Ram. I'm a YouTuber. I'm about to hit 250,000 subscribers. I've been doing YouTube for 3 years now. And in addition to that, I'm a believer, a family man, business owner. I also am the creator of the Relief Roadmap, which is a digital product that allows people to get information about government programs that provide them funding. And also the creator of Steve Ram Home Buyers. I flipped houses in California, Missouri, Ohio, and right now my focus is Houston, Texas. And just in 2021, managed to finally hit financial freedom and move from California to Texas with my family and just making it happen. But before all of that, dude, like I'm just like everybody else. Back in the last recession, I was totally broke. I lost everything. So over the past couple years, maybe like a decade now, I just totally recreated myself, because during that time when I lost everything, I was just like praying to God, and I was like, I do not ever want to be in this position again. I don't ever want to be broke or be like this. And I just made a decision, and it was, God, I know that the Bible says that it's difficult for a rich man to make it to heaven, but if it's possible, I want to do it, because I don't want to live like this anymore. So that was the turning point for me, was that last recession when I lost everything. And then here we are today.
Wow. So when you felt, the dead broke, and you were like, I have to get out of this, what was the first thing you did or thought of to escape that?
Oh, man. What's funny is, like, I don't come from a background of entrepreneurship or business or real estate or any sort of like financial literacy at all. So all I knew to do was to start searching for work. And my mom, when I was little, she told me, like, when you grow up, you need to go to college and you need to get a degree, and then you need to get a job. And so that's exactly what I did, because that was the information that was provided to me. So I went to college. I got a degree in landscape architecture from UC Davis, got my bachelor's degree. And then as soon as I got out, that's when the recession hit. So I had nothing. So all I did was, like, at first, I was just a hot mess. I was just like, dude, I had just gotten married, just graduated college, and immediately lost my job, lost my place, lost my car, pretty much lost everything. And I was in a very humble place, living in the back bedroom of my parents' house with my wife for like a year. And then I was kind of like in a pity party. And then one of my buddies came to me, and he like kind of shook me, and he was like, dude, you're better than this. You can get it together. You can make it happen. And I was just really praying, seeking God. And I was like, you know what? I need to put the pieces back together. And so the only thing that I knew back then was to go look for work. So I just started pounding doors. Like, I made a list of every single architecture firm in Sacramento, California. And I decided I'm going to go hit up every single one of them uninvited until somebody gets me a job. And I just started showing up, asking for informational interviews, doing rounds every week, taking donuts to people that were willing to the next day or the next week, to say thank you, until I finally landed a job. And so that was it for me. But for me, like, at that place, I realized shortly after, see, I didn't know this, I just followed what my mom told me, was that when I finally got that career job, that it was not what I expected. For some reason, I thought, like, oh, this is going to be taking care of all my financial issues. It was not. As soon as I got in there, a little while after, I realized, like, oh, dude, I worked so hard to get my next raise. And when I got my year-end review, they said, great job. You get a 3% raise. And then I was like, that's it? Okay, I'm going to work harder the next year. So the next year I worked really hard, and I got a 3% raise. And I was like, oh, dude, what in the world? And then I was totally disheartened. And I was like, dude, I'm not even going to try. Like, this is dumb. Like, I can do more than this. So I was just getting by. And at the end of the year, they're like, congratulations, you get a 3% raise. And I was like, okay. So regardless of how much effort I put into this, they're never going to, give me the value that I pour in. And I want something that's going to reward me for the effort that I put in. I want an output for the input. And so for me, I was just like, This is not where it's at. So immediately I started seeking out advice from others that have achieved the success that I wanted. So I started going to people that I knew were successful. And I was just asking them, like, dude, how do I get financial success? And none of them really were willing to share with me. It was funny, like they were busy, they couldn't get the time to do it. But I finally got a hold of a guy, and his name was Jay Massey. He's a real estate investor. Right now, he's big on short-term rentals. Back then, he was doing syndications for apartments and hotels, like in different parts of the world. Extremely successful guy. And he was the first one that was just willing to take time out with me. And he told me, he was like, dude, he was like, it's easy. He's like, people that have financial success, they focus their time and energy on one of three things. And he said, and those three things are real estate, stocks, and business. And he was like, those are the three keys to financial success. He was like, if you want to get into those, he's like, if you can get into all of them, even better, but just try to master one. And the one that resonated with me was real estate. So while I was working my day job, then I transitioned into real estate investing.
Wow. Okay. So when you say transition into real estate investing, are you immediately thinking, how can I do this if I don't have a lot of money saved up? Or what was your first thought for that transition? Was it, oh, I can flip houses, or I can do rental? Because a lot of people, they have that limiting belief that they can't do real estate because they don't have the funds.
Yeah. So like for me, so I guess like I got to rewind a little bit. For me, it was when I finally got back on my feet and I got that job. I moved into our first house, and it was during the housing crash. You know, it's just a little bit after. I think it was like 2011. We got that first house. We got it at a super steep discount. And what ended up happening was we moved in. I had no money. I was totally beat up from life and from the recession. And what's funny is that we moved in. We put our boxes in the new house, and I was opening up a box. And I opened up a box, and I pulled out this book. And the funny thing about this book was that my mom had given it to me like years and years and years ago. I was like 17. I remember the day she gave it to me. I was 17. I was in my room playing video games. My mom walks in the room and she says, hey, you know, you're getting ready to graduate high school. You're going to go out into the world. You probably want to learn a little bit about money. She's like, I don't know a whole lot about it, but this book I've heard is really good. So I recommend that you read it. And I said, okay, thanks, Mom. And I took the book. She walked out of the room and I threw it in the box in my closet. And it just sat there for years and years and years until like I went to college, got beat up. All of that stuff happens. Fast forward, finally got my career job, realizing it's not where I want to be. We move into our first house. I pull out this book and I think, man, I need to read this book. I've been beat up. So I read that book. And I read that book. It was like a light bulb went off in my head. My eyes were open and I had seen things and read things that I had never heard of before in my life. And that book was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And when I read that book, I realized I need to invest in real estate. And they were talking about creative acquisition strategies and all these things. And I was like, okay, I need to try to figure this out. But for me, I knew that it was real. And it was because when we moved into the new house, I started looking for some way to get furniture because we had nothing. So I went onto Craigslist and I found a stove and a dishwasher. And we didn't have a stove. So I didn't need the dishwasher. And I went and bought it off of somebody. They just had gotten upgrades. And when I got them, they sold them to me for $150. And so I installed the stove. And then I didn't know what to do with the dishwasher. So my buddy said, oh, sell it on Craigslist again. So then I sold it, and I sold it for $120. And the light bulb was stove and make money. And so then I started doing that with appliances. I started doing it with electronics. I moved my way up to sofas and like sectionals. Mm-hmm. That was where the money was like sectionals. And I was cracking up because when I found Ryan Pineda, I was like, dude, I thought I was the only person that did that. And they're like, to find out he had taken it even a step further than me because I think like on a weekend or like in a month, I probably could make like $3,000 off of flipping sofas. And I was just doing it out of my garage. And I saw Pineda's video and he was making like $8,000 a month and he was renting out like a storage unit. And I was like, man, but it was the sofas that made it real for me. Like, I know if I can flip sofas, I can flip houses. And again, like I had no background or education in real estate. So dude, I did it the dumb way. Like I've heard people say like all the investors, nobody's buying it with their own money cash. I didn't know about hard money. I didn't know about lending. So I literally saved up like 65 grand cash and used that to go buy my first flip. And I was doing that for several of my flips. So like I literally was buying hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of real estate, and it was just cash that I had saved up. So just from flipping sofas, working multiple jobs, and just saving up to get to that place.
That's funny. You know what? Just hearing your story, it's oddly similar to mine. I did not know. I didn't know you had this story because, in terms of everything from your parents um, telling you go to college, get the job, you get the job, you're like, I don't like this job. And then now we go to entrepreneurial side and you flip something. For me, it was like on eBay, the little items, the games, the stuff I knew. Like I knew what game prices were. And I thought this is pretty cool. So I just find it fascinating that that's the route you went. And a lot of new entrepreneurs, before they attack something big, usually there's some baby steps to get there in terms of belief and that proof of concept that they develop. So let's say, you flip these appliances, you flip these sectionals. What was the first jump into real estate? What was that very first house, if you remember?
Yeah. So I wish I could tell you that I was just like bold and jumped right in, but the fact of the matter was like I was scared out of my mind. And like I actually, looking back in retrospect, had come across a lot of good deals when I started searching, but I would always find something wrong with them because honestly, I was afraid to make that leap. I was afraid I was going to mess things up. But I knew it was real because I was flipping sofas. And when I saved my first 10 grand, I was like, oh man, that blew my mind because prior to that, I had never saved up that kind of money. When I hit 10 grand, like that was the most real moment. All the other milestones like I've ever hit, I've never had the feeling like when I hit that first 10 grand. But I saved up and I actually was looking for deals, just couldn't close on them. And then one of my buddies was like, dude, like, let's go to the auction. And he was already like investing. He was getting some rentals and stuff. And he was like, let's go. He's like, we're going to get something. And I was like, okay, cool. So like we went to the auction and, I had like these spreadsheets and all this data and like, just, here's the, ARV and we're going to get the percentage of this off or the starting prices. So we come across this one and he was like, we don't want this one, but we want the next one. And he's like, we don't want this one because there's squatters, there's drug dealers in there. It's a hot mess. We're going to have to kick them out. He's like, but we'll still just throw a bid because it's a super good deal, but we really want the next one. And I was like, okay. So then when that one came up, I was like, should we bid on it? And he's like, yeah, go for it. So like I threw a bid in and then like, some people started bidding on it. And then I think it was up at like 35 grand or something like that. And I can't remember what the ARV was. I think it was like 80 grand. And then I was like, should I do this? And then he was like, man, it's going to be a headache kicking these people out. He's like, just do one more. He was like, we're not going to get it at 35. And I was like, okay, so 35. And then all of a sudden nobody else bid on it. And then they were like going once. And then my friend sitting next to me, he's like, oh crap. And I was like, what? What do you mean, oh crap? You told me to bid on it. And they're like, going twice. And he was like, oh my God, this is happening. And I was like, what do you mean, oh my God, this is happening? You told me to do it. And it's like, well, like this is going on. And he was like, yeah, but I didn't think we were actually going to get it. And he was like, last call. And then he was like, oh my God, this is happening. And they were like, sold. And so I was just like sweating. I was just like so nervous. And I was like, I can't believe we did this. We just bought this condo at the auction for 35 grand. So went and paid for it. And then I bought it. And then when I came home, though, like I think it took me 2 years from the time that I decided I was going to get into real estate investing, from the time I actually got that house or that condo. It took me 2 years. So when I came home, I walked through the door and I told my wife, I was like, the man has arrived. I was like, I finally did it. I got my condo. And I was like, I didn't tell her the story that I was like sweating bullets the whole time, but I was just so pumped. Yeah, yeah. And so like I was just like, that was like the proudest moment. And then switch scenes to like that night, because it's just it's such an incredible thing to do something that dramatic, to take that leap. So then switch scenes to that night. I can't sleep. Everyone in the house is asleep, and I just go in the closet. I just start praying, and I'm like, oh God, what have I done? Like, what have I done? Like, it's gonna be a disaster. So, but that was how I got the first one, and I made so many mistakes. Like, I probably could have made so much more money, but I did no idea what I was doing. It took us 13 months to kick out those squatters. They were in there. It was insane. They had been in there. They said, let's like dealing drugs and stuff for like the past like 5 years. And when I went and approached them, I offered them cash for keys or keys for cash, all this stuff. They would not get out. We literally had to go the entire process to the point where the sheriffs had to get them out. Sheriff showed up. They released like pit bulls on the sheriff. The sheriff like had to pepper spray the pit bulls. Finally, when he got in the house, he kicked them out. There was 8 people in the house that were in there, just all kinds of random people. The place was full of all kinds of stuff. Let's just say that. And we had to clear it out, and we finally cleaned it up though. And after the course of 13 months, took over a year from the time I bought it to the time we sold it. Finally sold it for that 80 or 85 grand. And then like after all the repairs and all the mistakes, my buddy and I, we split $22,000. So took me a year to make 11,000, but that was my first deal.
That's pretty good for a first deal, actually. A lot of first deals are break even when you like add everything up. So that's pretty good. Uh, that's a wild story for the first deal too, having a 12-month trying to evict squatters or get rid of the squatters and all that.
Welcome to California.
Okay, now that's what I was gonna say. Is I invest in California as well. I was like, it must have been California or something as you're describing that. Um, so you flip that house. Now, once you make that 11,000, once you split that 22,000, what's the first thought that goes through your mind? Is it, this isn't that good after all, or were you like, this is awesome, 11K? Because I think our reality is how we think. So I'm kind of curious what was going on through your head during that time.
Yeah, and actually, while we had that one, I got the second house. So yeah, so like I was like, dude, I still got like money. Like, so what I was doing was before we had kids, I had my full-time day job as the landscape architect. Then my wife was going to college, and I was like, dude, at night I'm here by myself. This is dumb. Like, so I'm like, I need to get more money. So I got a nighttime job. So I was actually because so like my record is like nothing. Like I've never been in trouble or anything like that. So I actually was able to get a job as a teacher teaching architecture and engineering in prison. So I would teach night classes in prison. And so I had the day job, had the night job in prison. And then in the evenings in between those, I was teaching and tutoring kids in math. And then on the weekends, I was flipping sofas. So I was piling all this money, and I'm like, dude, I've got all this money. Let me get another one. So like, I actually got the next deal because I think my mindset was just simply like, I do not ever want to go back to the place that I was in before where I was totally broke. And I know what just doing a job has to offer. I have to keep pushing regardless. I know it's hard, but it's worth it. So I was like, you know what? I got to keep pushing forward.
Wow. It's interesting that about what you just said there is you said you had all these different things going on, and your first instinct, your gut, because you wanted to progress, was to add more. A lot of people, this is something I've been guilty of a lot. I mean, even now, like sometimes I get all this stuff on my calendar, and I'm the busiest I've ever been right now. And then the thought is, okay, if I wanted to add more, what's the step and how do I outsource? But a lot of people, when they hit that point, they draw back, they retract. So have you always had that in you to just push harder and harder? Because I don't think that's common. That seems like it's counterintuitive to what most people feel, just as far as fear goes, and what's natural for humans. So has that always been in you, or were you just terrified of being at that broke place again?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. like I feel like I was just like, I have the same mentality as everybody else. And it's funny, I actually just did a story on that today about that concept because I was just thinking like, right now I did a story like for this year, I'm going to be launching a new business where I want to help people. I want to impart to them some of the knowledge that I have about the YouTube algorithms, how to tap into them and how to explode. And right now, I'm probably the busiest that I've ever been, which is like, it's hilarious because I think people are like, oh, you don't have a day job anymore and you just do YouTube. So you probably just, are just chilling. But it's like, I am like super busy. And right now, like people are asking me, when are you free? This and that. And I was thinking like, dude, I don't have any time. But I think like that is when, like in that story I just shared, it was like, we pray to go to the next level. Like I want to grow. I want to do new things. I want to expand. And so it's almost like this is our capacity. And like we've stretched it to the point that we can't go any further. But then it's like, okay, now that you've hit the limit of your capacity, if you want to grow, you just add another thing on, in which, like you said, sounds counterintuitive because it's like, I can't put anything else on my calendar. I'm going to die. I want to retract. I want to pull things off of my schedule, but you need to add one more thing on because that takes you to the next level that you're striving to go to. Because now you've got another thing. And then once you have that additional thing on your calendar or on your schedule, then it's like, okay, now how do I make this work? How do I be more efficient with my schedule, my time? Who do I need to hire? How do I do things more efficient? And then that helps you to grow and grow. And it's just, but it's natural human response to just say, oh, I need to retract. But we need to keep pushing forward if we want to grow.
Right, right. So I kind of want to touch on the YouTube, because you mentioned you're starting something for YouTube, that the Tuesday thing where you're helping other YouTubers and adding that one thing to your list of activities. Now, in terms of the start of YouTube, because we kind of heard your story about starting the real estate investing journey, just the entrepreneurial journey in general. What made you start YouTube in the first place, and how long ago was that?
So that was 3 years ago. So I think I actually started uploading in 2019, but it was just here and there. And I didn't really start taking it serious till 2020. So I kind of count 2020 as the actual beginning of the channel. And what kind of caused me to start doing that was actually real estate. So I was talking to Jay about like a real estate deal that I had come across, and that the problem was that I was able to get money, but I wasn't able to get it in time because I had raised a bunch of money from some people, and they said like I was like a 3-house package or whatever. And he said, okay, so your problem is not money, and it's not like these people or this deal. He said, your problem is that you don't have enough people that know you. He was like, you wouldn't run more exposure. He was like, because think about it. He said, a lot of people think about the 3 Ps: the product, the price, the person. And people try to have the best product, the best price, the best, like, I'm the best person. Those don't win. It's about you. You would have people just, banging your door down to lend you money to get this deal because it's a good deal. He was like, so your problem is that you need to get more exposure. And which was funny was that like I had no desire to have any exposure whatsoever, have anybody know my name. But he said, you have to put yourself out there because it's just a part of it. So that's pretty much like what I decided to do. Is he said, you need to get on YouTube and on these social media platforms, and you need to put it out there that you're doing real estate deals, and then more deals will pour in, and you're going to get like, funding and deals coming your way. So the original intention of the YouTube channel was actually to help my real estate businesses. But then as soon as I started, it was the beginning of 2020 when I really started taking it serious. Then boom, the pandemic hits, and I saw millions of people losing their jobs in a single week. And that really struck me because that was me in the last recession when I had lost everything. And my heart was I just felt for all these people. And I actually literally went and prayed during the pandemic. And I was like, God, what can I do to help these people? Like, what should I do? Like, I've only got so much money. Maybe I could give money. I could create something. Like, this is just devastating. Remembering like it was like the pain that I had had before was fresh inside of me. And I remember praying and just feeling like, just give them information with your channel. And I just remember feeling like it's kind of like a compromise. So like compromising my channel is supposed to be for real estate, and I'm just going to give, information. But I decided to do it. I was like, okay, so I just kind of put out some videos, and then something clicked. And back then I didn't know what I was doing, but I got this massive exposure, and it just started building, and then it died. But then as I was like, oh dude, like I couldn't believe it. Like I had made like some money off of it. And then when I finally started figuring out more and more about how the algorithm works, I started picking it up, getting traction. And then it just started going to the point where I was like, oh dude, this is insane. This is ridiculous. But the origination of the channel was 3 years ago for the purpose of doing real estate. And then now it's just turned into just giving people information, just trying to help them with what's going on.
I think that's awesome. I've always wondered that because I've checked out your channel and watched some videos, and I thought, I wonder how he got into this passion of finance, and like you talk about like stimulus checks, government stuff. I'm like, how? Like that's just not a natural thing. Like at least for me at my age, I'm not looking at. But so that makes a ton of sense, and I think a lot of times the value we can give to people are trying to help the younger versions of ourselves. We go through something horrible or really hard. That's really why I started making a lot of real estate content at the beginning. Is I'm making the videos that I wish I had when I was starting, because I made so many different mistakes. Now, as you were making all these now stimulus videos or COVID videos, to help people through the recession or the pandemic, I guess how long did it really take you to see big momentum or real benefits to yourself? Like in terms of, I guess, monetary or certain like money raising? Like how long did that process take as soon as you started getting serious about putting out the quantity? Because I've seen your channel. Sometimes you'll post like 5 times a week, 7 times a week. Like you'll post a lot. Uh, so how long and what kind of quantity were you doing or volume to get that kind of benefit?
Yeah, great question. So honestly, I feel like if somebody wants to start getting traction on YouTube, the right answer to the amount of times that you should be uploading pretty much is as often as you can without losing the quality of the content. So if you can upload, if you can only upload like once a month and that's the best you can do to not lose the quality and not lose your sanity and maintain your lifestyle, then just do it. But if you can do like once a week, do it. If you can do once a day, do it. If you can do 3 times a day, do it. That's pretty much like what I would say based off of my experience. In addition, they just recently shared with me, I was on a call with them because they have higher level Google and YouTube mentors that work with the bigger channels. So once you hit like, I can't remember what it is, like 100 or 150,000 subscribers, you unlock different things in YouTube. And so now I can have access to these people that tell me what they're doing with the platform. And also, I don't know if you've noticed the platform, they've changed the way that the channels are set up. So no longer is it just like shorts and videos and lives, they have their own sections. And they said the way that they've set that up,
Yes, I've always wanted that.
yeah, and they said that they did that. So now think of it like you have 3 channels in one, and which is really great. So if you post a video, like, and this is kind of what I'm doing. Uh, Post a video sometime during the day when your audience is available, then do a live. And so many people are not taking advantage of this. Everyone's talking about shorts, and they're missing a huge opportunity in lives because live also is tapping into a different algorithm than the actual upload videos. And I've seen some explosive growth on some algorithms people didn't expect in the live streams. So you can do a regular video, do a live stream, and then do the shorts. And I think you're already doing this. The shorts, they said, should not be, don't think of it like you have a shorts channel. The shorts, the best way to convert people to stay is to do it as a repurposed segment or clip of an existing long-term piece of format, a video, and then recommend that they go watch the long form. And they said, and put the links and all that stuff to send them from the short to your long form content. So I don't even remember what your question was. I just went off on a tangent. Sorry.
No, that actually helps a lot. Now you're giving me a ton of ideas in terms of what I'm going to do because this upcoming year, as I kind of implement or integrate new systems to stay consistent, I want to up my volume a lot. Before, I don't know how many times. Have you ever messed with posting like 3+ times a day on YouTube, full length videos? How long did that last, and like how long did you see the benefit of it? Because that's something I'm like, I think I can do it in terms of just the output and keeping the quality, because a lot of times really it's just helping me speak better as well on camera. And that's something that I've realized is a lot of people are so worried about being perfect. And I thought, well, I'm looking at how I speak on camera. I go record it at the beginning. I look at it, I'm like, this sucks. So I have to do more. There's no way. Like, I'm not going to get better from just like talking with coaches, communication coaches. Like, I have to do it and then over and over again. So can you walk me through about that 3 times a day? Because now we're getting in depth with the YouTube, because this is like a selfish question too.
Yeah, no, and like any questions, and I'm happy to. And actually, this is what I'm planning to do on starting this Tuesday. I'm going to be doing YouTube Tuesdays, and I'm going to open up a Zoom channel. I got to figure that out, and then I'm going to just have people come in, and I just want to dialogue. Like, what are your questions? What's holding you back? Let's go ahead and do this because I want people to start seeing results for like the products I'm going to start using, and then that will help guide me to have the template. So for 3 times a day. And I'd say that, like I said, that's probably the magic number. I wouldn't go any more than that. I know I've seen channels that do stuff in that. So it depends on what the strategy is. So I've seen some bigger channels, like say like Meet Kevin, and he'll do like 10 videos per day. And you'll notice it's almost like the algorithm tries to balance out your views across the thing. So you'll do one video for one day, and let's say it just gets like 100,000 views. Then the next day you'll do 3 videos and they split almost like across 100,000 views. So it depends though, like you will get a little bit more, but it's diminishing, what do they call it? Diminishing returns or whatever. Yeah, so it's like if you do that one video, let's just say it gets 30,000 views. But then the next day, if you do 2, those 2 will get 20. So for the total, you'll get a little bit more, but just know the videos are going to look like they're performing less. And the reason why is because you're posting them. If it's the same exact type of content, they're actually completely, say, a real estate video about wholesaling in the morning, and then I release a wholesaling video in the evening. I've got my audience that has to decide, oh, which video do I want to watch? Do I have time to watch both of these? And then the algorithm has to decide too, which one of these is better than the other that I'm going to be promoting on like the different algorithms. Am I going to put this on people's homepages or suggested which one is better? So it's almost like you're having to pick one. So when I finally knew that I was onto the algorithm was when I started creating videos and titles from my research, and Kevin was posting the exact same ones. And I was like, I've made it. I know, like, okay, cool. And so I usually can tell too, just by looking at a channel, if somebody has an actual YouTube strategy or if they're just kind of like, they've got the shotgun effect. They're just shooting in the dark, just coming up with ideas, looking at like vidIQ, trying to come up with titles. They don't have an actual like strategy that they're implementing. You can see when people actually know what they have, like an in-depth YouTube algorithm strategy. I've literally seen Graham Stephan and Andre Jick post the same video at the same time with almost the exact same title. And just know that everything that they're doing is extremely intentional. Like there is an in-depth understanding of the algorithms and what they're doing to expand their YouTube. So it depends on what your outcome is that you want. So circling back, the reason why Kevin was doing 10 videos per day was strictly for monetary purposes. So he did not care about the performance of the video. He didn't care about it getting like ranked or reach or any of that. When he does those binge ones, it's because he's racking in the money. So he's not caring about like the overall performance of that particular video, but overall he wants to get as much views as he can, and the whole sum of everything is going to be a little bit more. They're all not going to perform as well, but he's going to get a bigger payout for that. So if your purpose is Google AdSense revenue, that's when you see that rapid fire video that they're trying to rack in the cash.
So how can people help you? Where can they find out a little bit more about you, man?
If anybody is looking, if there's anybody out there that is a believer, a business owner, an entrepreneur, and they're looking to get their message, their product, their service out, and they're looking to utilize social media as that means to get that out, right now, I'm going to be launching a new business that's going to be helping people with that. But I'm going to be going that route. Probably the best way to get a hold of me right now is Instagram at SteveRam3. That would probably be best.
All right, if you had one message to share to the world, what's the message?
I just think that you can do it. I mean, like, if people want to change their lives, I know that you said a lot of people on your audience are just starting out. You can make it happen. Believe in yourself. There's so much more that we are capable of, and we sell ourselves short. And I want to say, I had just seen like a reel by Steve Harvey that I thought was so awesome. And he was talking about like a flea has a 36-inch vertical. And he was saying, if you put a flea into a jar, it hits its head and then it starts jumping lower, maybe like 4 or 5 inches. And then if the flea has baby fleas, then they only go as far as their parents go. So just know that we are limited by what we're taught. But if you're willing to go out there and try to find the information, and that is the main thing, is that I remember Jay telling me this. He was like, you're not dumb, you're not worthless. It's not like you're not capable of these things. It's just that you lack information. And once you get the information, you can go so much further than you realize. And I think I would just say, don't doubt yourself. You just need to go out there and get the information that could change your life.